Welcome to the KDC Martial Arts Self-Defense Series. As always, the techniques and skills shown should only be done under the supervision of a qualified instructor. In self-defense, we are mainly going to strike with open hands. We're rarely going to strike with a closed fist. And there are three main reasons for this. The first is that there are a lot of small bones in your hand. And if you strike a very hard surface, and believe me, the human skull is a very hard surface, with that closed fist, there is a good chance that you can do damage to or even break the bones in your hand. This will make punching very difficult. It will make gripping very difficult. And so fighting becomes much more of a challenge at that point. The second reason is rolling your wrist. Your wrist can roll if you strike an uneven or curved surface like the human head, or very hard, heavy surface like the human body, or other heavy object. And what will happen is, as that fist comes in, that wrist will bend unexpectedly in a direction like this. This will cause a lot of pain in the wrist. It will make it difficult to safely or effectively throw another punch. So this is something we always have to watch out for. So keeping open hands will significantly reduce the risk that you're going to roll your wrist, right? It's very hard to do that when you're striking with open hands. Yes, it is possible that if you strike with the open hand and you catch something of significant force high up in the hand, that the wrist will bend back this direction, which could also cause pain and make it difficult. However, we're much more used to our wrists stressing back in a position like that than we are for them to roll this way suddenly. And so we can usually handle that a whole lot better. Now, these first two reasons that we mentioned, breaking bones in the hand or rolling the wrist, are the reason why you see in professional fighting, boxing, MMA, that fighters will tape and wrap their hands and wrists very well before they go into the fight. That's even before they put any curved gloves on. They're going to wrap their hands and their wrists, and this will prevent or at least reduce the risk of them rolling their wrist or them breaking those bones in their hands, which then allow them to continue the fight for much longer periods of time, because they all know how dangerous that is to strike those hard surfaces with bare hands. More likely you're going to end up breaking something or damaging that wrist. Now, the third reason that we want to use open hands instead of a closed fist is that open hands give you some additional options that the closed fist does not. The first of those options is a little bit of extra extension. If you're making a fist, you have to make contact with whatever you're punching at that point where your knuckles are going to strike the target. However, if you open your hand, you're able to then get that extra couple of inches of reach in hitting that target. Now, we're not going to do this against a really hard surface because our fingers aren't that strong. So what we're going to do is use that extra extension that we're getting with our hands by striking specific targets, vulnerable targets like the eyes and the throat. We also want to make sure that we keep our hands in this motion or this shape here where our fingers are locked together, because what this allows us to do is this allows us to maintain good control over these fingers. If your fingers are a little bit more spread out, there's a chance that if you kind of miss a little bit sideways, you might catch a finger or you might jam an individual lone finger, and it's more likely to then end up doing damage to your fingers and make it difficult for you to continue. So keeping them locked into a position like this when we reach for things like eyes, okay, throats, this allows us to strike with a little bit more power, okay, because our fingers are together, so it's a little bit more of a solid strike, and it protects our fingers a little bit more. So again, the second option that opening up your hands gives you is the ability to grab your opponent. So opening up your hands keeps that option a little bit faster and makes sure that you have a better chance of actually grabbing hold of something. Now, the third option that comes along with this is because of the shape that we're using with our hands, where we're keeping these fingers together and we're keeping our thumbs in generally tight in this way, comes when we're targeting things like the ears. Because if we're coming around with a motion that comes to the side and we take this cup-like shape that our hand is creating and we land that onto somebody's ear, there's a high likelihood that we can cause a lot of air pressure as we strike that ear. That air pressure as we strike that ear has a chance to damage the eardrum. This will not only affect their hearing, but it will affect their equilibrium. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you guys the basic strikes in self-defense. We're going to base this off of the basic strikes in boxing first. The 3 basic strikes in boxing are the jab, the cross, and the hook. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with open hands. We're going to learn to strike, and we're going to target our strikes. So we're thinking about things like the eyes or the throat for the jab. We're thinking about the nose and the chin, okay, for the cross. And we're thinking about striking the ears, okay, on either side for the hook. And these are our 3 basic targets. So we're going to concentrate on what our targets are as opposed to what the names of the punches are. So we're going to think eyes, okay, nose, and ears. And that's the easiest way to think about it, and that's how we're going to do it. Okay, we're going to show you that next. All right, everybody, like I said, next we're going to go ahead and show you how we do this, put this into action. Xander's going to help me out with this demonstration. So the first thing we always want to do is get ourselves in what we consider the non-threatening position or the ready position. This means we're going to put 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Okay, we're turned a little bit to the side, and our hands are out front. Okay, since we're going to use our open hand strikes, we're going to keep our hands with our fingers tight together. Don't open your hands or your fingers up like this. Keep your fingers tight. Okay, we're starting with just the eye jab. So when we do this, we're going to think of stepping forward, and we're going to reach out with those fingers like we're aiming right towards somebody's eyes. So as that person is approaching us and we're telling them to stay back, we're suddenly going to take that step forward, and we're going to jam our fingers right towards their eye. Okay, now we're going to step back. We're going to do that again. Okay, we're going to take that step forward. We're going to jam our fingers right towards that person's eye. Boom. Now we're going to follow that up with a heel palm strike to the nose or mouth area. So we're hitting with this part of our hand. So as we come through, we're going to turn this hip hard in that direction. Okay, and as we do it, we're going to drive the other hand forward. Okay. All right, let's step back. We're going to do that again. Hands up. Okay, we're in this position. The person's like, hey, they're not listening to us. We're trying to give them those verbal commands to de-escalate, to stay back. We're trying to maintain distance. They won't allow us to do so, and we feel that we have to fight back. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the eye strike. Okay, then we're going to drive to the nose. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this hip here hard back to the other side, and we're going to bring this hand, which is still in this cup shape, we're going to bring it to the person's ear. Okay, then we're going to step back. Let's do that again. Okay, once again, we're here. Okay, we're going to step up. We're going to strike and strike. Now what we're going to do is add the 4th one in, and that's going to be turning this hip back again, that direction hard, as we bring this hand around and strike that person's ear on the other side. Okay, let's go back, all 4. We're in position. Okay, the person's not listening to us. We feel we need to strike back, so we're going to step forward. Okay, one more time. Remember, we want to keep our hands high, okay? In between each punch, don't drop your hands. Hands need to stay high. That way we're ready not only to throw the next strike, but it also means we're ready to block or defend ourselves if we have to. So again, we're in that position. That person is coming forward even though we have told them to stay back. They are threatening us, and we feel the need to fight back. So we're going to immediately go. Eyes, no, ears, ears. Let's go do it again. We're in position. Okay, we're going to go eyes, nose, ear, ear. Okay, one more time. Keep those hands high. Eyes, nose, ear, ear. Okay, and that's how we start the drill. We want to do this without coming in contact with anybody. Work on the motions, get our footwork right, get our hips right, make sure our hands are doing the right things, keeping our hands high through the action. We want to make sure that we have that down first before we begin working back and forth with the part. All right, so another way that we can practice this after our students have gotten down the motion is to have them hit pads. Okay, striking a surface like this is safe for everybody involved. So I'm going to put on some mitts, and then Xander's going to practice the 4 strikes. Okay. All right. So first and foremost, he's going to practice that eye strike. So he's going to come up there and he's going to hit the pad with the eye strike. Good. Now he's going to come in. I'm going to bring the other pad around. He's going to strike that nose strike. Good. Now he's gonna come around, he's gonna do that ear strike on the one side, and then the ear strike on the other side, okay? And so that becomes our pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Keep those eyes, nose, ears, okay? So we're looking for those short range motions. We don't need to get way down here, again, to hit, okay? With everything right in there, nice and tight, and that can still deliver significant power. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and show you how we do some partner work. When we do partner work, we go back and forth using another person as an actual live target for this drill. We wanna make sure that we introduce some safety equipment. A must is gonna be eye protection. Last thing you want to do in this drill is accidentally poke somebody in the eye. It will end all of your partner drill exercises, okay? So first and foremost, eye protection, okay? Next, this is optional, but we recommend it, and that is putting some kind of mouth guard in. Again, if we're doing this and we accidentally kind of catch somebody in the face, we don't want to accidentally knock a tooth out or something like that. So we're going to put the mouth guards in. Then what we're going to do is Xander and I are going to go back and forth, okay? I'm going to do all 4 strikes against him, and he's going to do all 4 strikes against me. Keep in mind, again, that we are not actually making any real physical contact at this point. We're not hitting with any real impact. At most, it's a touch. We have to be very, very cautious around the ears, because the last thing we want to do is actually land a sharp blow onto somebody's ears and blow out their eardrum. Again, that'll wreck your training session and hurt your partner. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our mouth guards in, and then we're going to go back and forth a few times. Good. Good. And again, remember, don't overdo it. Just because you've got a helmet doesn't mean you can prevent a concussion from happening. So don't overdo it. So what have we talked about targeting to this point? We've talked about targeting things like the eyes, right? We've talked about things like the throat, things like the ears. These are targets that we use in self-defense because if the person can't see you, if the person's having trouble breathing, if the person's balance and equilibrium are thrown off, they're gonna have a hard time chasing you when you make your escape. As always, the techniques and skills shown should only be done under the supervision of a qualified instructor.